And there we go. All right, we're recording. We're going to go ahead and view this first video. I'm going to turn off my audio. We'll be back in about 15 minutes to discuss Garry Kasparov and standing with the Ukraine in the fight against evil. Okay, see you soon. All right, everyone's returning. I'm going to stop talking. I'd love to hear from you about this video. What are your thoughts? I know some of us posted a few things that resonated with us, but just what are your thoughts after watching this video? Feel free, anyone, to type in chat or go ahead and use your audio. You're more than welcome to do that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney, and this is my first time ever being in the honors program. I found that video to be super interesting, especially hearing it from that perspective. You know, definitely opened my eyes to all of the insanity that is going on around us right now. And I found it to be really informative and just eye-opening and raw and real and authentic, because this is what people are dealing with every single day. And I know he put in a lot of comedy in there to kind of lighten the mood. However, I just thought it was really awesome.
Hey everybody, my name's Alucci. Again, this is also my first time being here. I thought the perspective of that video, it ignites certain emotions and feelings that maybe people feel now in our present day that sometimes are misplaced. We feel, victimized sometimes, and in our culture and our society, we have different things that we're battling. But when you look at a presenter like that and you realize, oh my gosh, there's other places that are truly fighting for liberty, it kind of puts into perspective some of the things that we debate and that we think and believe are real issues, and our issues maybe aren't life and death.
Absolutely. That was beautifully put.
I would counter and say that this is very much like chess. The only issue is, and I'm not a political science person at all, but chess is about strategy, knowing your opponent's strategy. Dictators know weaknesses of countries that want to have freedom, is that we'll try everything for the diplomatic route. And we worry so much about response to aggression. When you're saying, oh, we're going to go nuclear, we pull back. Well, we shouldn't pull back. Maybe we should prompt them to go. Same thing with North Korea. So it is very much like chess. The only issue here is that Putin betted on us to not be able to unite. You are a bit behind one group, and we did. So now he's doing this without any gain. So there's no political gain for him right now. So the question is, what's the information he's getting, and why isn't he realizing that he has nothing to gain from this? Because he's lost so much already.
He took advantage of the cracks in our apathy. He knew we wouldn't stand up to him.
Love that. I fully agree.
Because he knows that we're not going to follow through, especially when it comes to aggression. We're not going to follow through. So he took advantage of that.
I like the way that you worded that.
The speaker mentioned, I think he said something about that, Putin acting within the cracks of people's apathy. He acted when no one else would. Even if the entire world tells him that he's wrong, and clearly he's wrong, he's going to do what he thinks is right, even if that means demolishing a country, a neighbor, a territory that he feels should be part of his country.
It's kind of humbling to hear the speaker and how he brings it to such a real place, because to me, it mentally puts me in the position of, what if this happened in our own country? It's easy to gather and talk about it as if it doesn't exist, because it's not something that we walk out our front door and see. We saw through COVID that we don't deal with discomfort well. We shut down when we couldn't go to our favorite restaurants. We shut down when the grocery stores didn't have toilet paper. What happens when there's bombs coming down around us and the person that's sending them doesn't actually have a reason to do it, just because they can, and it'll go unchecked?
It just makes you think that, it can happen anywhere at any given time. And, it's just almost paralyzing to think that, there's so many that wish that they had the freedom that we currently have right now. Like, we're all able to sit in a Zoom meeting and talk about an event that is going on right now, but they're the ones that have to live through that. It's very sobering in a lot of different ways if you think about it.
And war
Hey.
change. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking with all this, yes, I know it's a greater scale for Ukraine, but this was also reminding me of 9/11 and how everybody was feeling when the towers collapsed. I was 15 at the time and watched the towers collapse in homeroom my freshman year. That's where I make my connection with it. I also found it interesting how people are telling him this is not like chess, but wasn't chess originally used to help wage war, help create the strategies for each side to try and win?
Yeah, I agree. I think Bill put it right. This is chess, but it's how strategic are we and how willing are we to go in and get that checkmate. And the way our culture is right now with our I don't want to call them distractions, because that downplays a lot of significant things, but some of our distractions are not at the level of dissolving our society. When really we see the example every time we wake up and turn on the TV right now, it's just not happening in front of us. So it's easier to make it not real. It's easier to downplay and say, oh, it's not chess, because it's not our chess.
Especially when it's happening half a world away. It's very easy for us to disconnect. It reminds me of one of my colleagues. He's an army serviceman, and he served in Syria during their civil war, and he's went 3 times. And each time he's come back, he's changed. He's a different person. He moved back in with his mother and his sister because he felt like he needed to be there if something happens to them. They live in the Bronx, and he's scared that something is going to happen to them to the effect of what he saw in Syria. War changes people, it almost irrevocably.
Yeah, it's crazy, the way that trauma and just the actual concept of war truly just alters the way that the brain processes or doesn't process information, and that state of hypervigilance and that need to stay on alert. And just adding on to what everyone else was saying about, it is so simple to just gloss over it and downplay it because it presently is not happening to us. However, we just have to consider that, we really are, fortunate, but it could be us at any given time.
I have to agree with what Mark said, that part of the reason why we're, as a country, staying out of this as much as we are is because of the nuclear arsenal that Russia has, and the fact that from what we see of Putin's personality, I don't think there's a question in my mind that if we were to retaliate for the Ukraine in some way, we'd be seeing those nuclear threats coming our way again, and we'd be back to the Cold War.
Yep.
That's a no-win game.
God
It's a
forbid.
no-sum win. Like, you would have to be a crazy man to actually go through with that. And we're saying that he is absolutely out of his mind that he would go through with that at no cost.
But is he out of his mind? Or are not all of these actions that he's taken over the past 20 years, like the speaker said, calculated moves on his part? Is he really insane?
They're calculated. He's just better at
Oh, yeah,
chess than we're
absolutely.
acting like we are. He's just better at it.
He waited until everybody was the weakest after the pandemic and everything to do this. So he has been planning this for a long time. He wrote his manifesto about how he would like the Soviet Union to come back and how it was the most horrific thing to happen to political science. So he's been planning this for quite some time. And he just thought now was the right time, and he was wrong.
He's a comic book supervillain.
Don't
There
do that. Now every time I see a picture of Poon, I'm gonna think of Dr. Doom. Oh man.
you could still be out of your mind and still be calculated. You know, insanity does not necessarily mean stupidity.
Very-
Truth.
I like that.
Truth.
I've been enjoying this conversation. We can continue it. I will share that the next video we're going to be watching exactly plays to a lot of what you've mentioned. It's about the nuclear side of this issue, which is the one thing Kasparov doesn't talk about in his presentation. He doesn't talk about that hanging, a sense of doom hanging in the background. I really enjoyed listening to so many. This is a fantastic discussion. I've enjoyed hearing many of you speaking about this kind of surreal quality of here we are in the comfort of our homes, half a world away. And, you know, I've never been in war. I can't imagine the kind of situations it's everyday life when you don't know what your next day is going to be, when any moment it could all be taken away from you in an instant. Everything you have, your life, your family could all be taken away. I remember, you know, when I was way back in high school, when many of you were long from being born, and I went over to Spain as part of a trip abroad, just with a school group. And Muammar Gaddafi, if you remember, those of you that remember, old enough like me to remember him, he had threatened to bomb military bases in Spain. And my school didn't want to go on the trip. I ended up going with a different school. And it was the closest I came was to be in Spain and know that just across the water from me was this crazy dictator who could be attacking the country I'm in now while I'm there. And it was so powerful to realize, wow, now I'm finally at least close to it. But again, to imagine what the situation is like for every day for the Ukrainians now is just, there's a third TED talk we probably won't get to that's about that. It's about education in Ukraine right now. But would anyone else like to share a thought or two before we move on to the next TED talk is called Nuclear Threat and the War in Ukraine. So shall we go and dive into that, or would you like to share any other thoughts on this before we do?
Well, Clifford, I'm glad that nothing bad happened to you while you were over there. You definitely were really fortunate that, you know, you got to be able to go to Spain and whatnot, but I'm fortunate that you didn't have to face the ugliness that was so close to you guys.
So, and I've enjoyed also, we've listened to this question, is he insane or not? Is Putin crazy, or is he a tactician, or a little bit of both? And that plays into also this next talk, which is about the irony of mutually assured destruction as a peacekeeping tool, which comes out of the Cold War.
Wow.
And well, let me just put it on so we can view it. But let me give you the information about it too, so that those who are watching this later on will know what the video is. I'm going to first post the title about it. Title and description: Nuclear Threat and the War in Ukraine. And this is about an 11-minute video. If I can copy it here.
Rochelle, in the comments, that's what we live. That's our reality version of the Ukraine war, is these areas that have had these isolated domestic terrorist attacks. The sad part, or the challenging part, is the way we've reacted to it. I too live in a city that had a very large domestic terrorist attack, and it shut our entire community down for quite some time. I don't even know if now I would say we've recovered, but not at the level of Ukraine.
All right, well, let's go watch this. I think you'll find it will inform the other and enhance the other. And this speaker asks more questions than she answers. So there is plenty we can talk about from this. This is definitely not a TED talk that's going to leave you with answers, but it leaves us with some really powerful questions, I think. So I'll see you back here in about 11 minutes. Okay. I think Magdalena captured it well when she says powerful questions to be considered. So who wants to dive in and consider them? Any answers out there?
Hi, Clifford. Hi, everybody.
Hello?
Oh my God, I'm so excited you can hear me. Yeah, some of the questions that she asked, wow, just left me speechless because they stir so much thought. Like when she asked what counts as an existential threat and how we rely on outdated assumptions that because both sides or all sides could reach peril, this will never happen. This is something that we count on. Those assumptions are outdated, and I thought it was very powerful how she pointed out that he's using this as a weapon. And I think someone said it earlier that he's counting. I think Bill said it earlier that he's counting on our diplomacy, our nice guidedness, our nice guidedness, if that's even a thing. But that's us, you know. When we want something, we go get it. But when it involves this diplomacy, we still want to be the nice guy. It's I just thought it was very powerful, and she raised a lot of great questions that, damn it, it deserves some thought. That's all.
I think that you're right that and she's right too, that we're hanging on to outdated hopes and Putin's pushing the envelope on the mutual destruction aspect, that he's willing to threaten the use. And knowing that if we step in, because we have the means to fight back, but all he has to do is start launching nuclear weapons our way. And even though in the same amount of time we're aware of the weapons coming to us, we shoot ours towards them and boom, we're all gone. And I think he has, I don't know, it indicates some madness on his part to think that it's okay for him to use this as a threat, because eventually it may turn around and get him in the end.
She mentioned something like that earlier. She mentioned that in the past, we always viewed a nuclear arsenal as a deterrent against war. And it was never that, a nuclear arsenal translates to strength. Strength, invites challenge, and challenge breeds catastrophe. A nuclear arsenal can never be anything but destructive. It's like someone holding a gun to your head. You can't live like that. No one can live like that. And literally, Ukraine is in his back door. It's a terrifying way to live.
I liked one of the questions she posed too about what role nuclear weapons play. I mean, really, it's the one thing, you know what I mean? The one thing that countries have in their back pocket, but really, in a way, it's its own. It's its own thing. I don't know how to describe it more so, but the kind of destruction that it would have in so many levels. I liked how she introduced that it's important to include people in the conversation that aren't normally part of the conversation, especially those with opinions, and that the public should be educated. I really enjoyed this talk. Thank you for sharing.
I would say the other issue that she brought up is the food shortages, because Ukraine and Russia account for, I think, over 20 to 30% of the wheat production in the world. So that is, luckily, I believe that some farmers in Ukraine are still growing wheat, so that's good. But and then there's the refugee crisis from people coming from Ukraine that's going to be an aftermath of this as well, and already is. So.
I like the multidisciplinary look at this, because we specialize and go to college for a reason. We have something, because when you spread it all out and have little knowledge about everything, you lose stuff and gaps. But if you have people in those niches come together and give their input, it becomes a much stronger structure, and it's easier to solve problems with that.
I think it's kind of a challenge to look at it in such a way that we're all the way, discussing about the extreme case, which would be, nuclear war, right? The demise of civilization. But really, if you look at it in more of a microeconomic way, we have things just in our own individual small cultures and communities that really could lead to this sort of an exaggerated what if, this big ending. But because we're all structured in that way, where we're almost held hostage to that overall, oh my gosh, if we act, if we react, if we hold accountable, then everything could fall apart, versus dealing with it in a smaller structured way. So Bill, like you said, with food shortages, those are issues and challenges that we have in our own school systems and communities and states and cities and countries. But now we're dealing with it. We're trying to bite off such a big piece where we're thinking about if we don't allow this, it could affect us globally. Well, really, the structure should have been to address it at a smaller scale long before now. Because trying to look at it in such a big way, or as such a big place, is almost, there's no resolution in that type of volume.
So one thing she mentioned was how Putin uses the weapons as to blackmail the world, is the term she used. I feel like with anything, if they feel like their hands are like tied and like they're put in this predicament where they are then forced to kind of hide behind their fears of, like the what if. So, what if we do this, or what if we do that? So they're kind of like, everyone's just sitting back, watching everything unfold, and not making any efforts, of course, because of that, nuclear weapon blackmail.
It's almost as if we're stuck in kind of a dance, and Putin's the one calling it. Those of you that are familiar with square dancing or whatever, we're kind of trapped in this, and we can't. We know what we want to be doing, and we know what we believe, but we have to pretend that we're kind of sort of on the sidelines, and it's crazy. It's a crazy situation. We really are moving to he's still calling the shots in a way, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, that's kind of the damning part about it, is that because it's such a big dance and everybody's present all at once, nobody dares take that first step. But really, the first step should be so much smaller. Figuring out ways to address food shortages, figuring out ways to address clean water, figuring out ways to address, education and resources and healthcare. Myself, I'm leadership in healthcare, and it's not to downplay what Ukraine is going through. We went through a similar situation with COVID-19. Our resources were maxed out, and we gave frontline workers every dollar that we could possibly spare to put in their pocket, because the fear was, well, what if they stop showing up to work? Well, it's you can continue to make decisions based on that what if, or you can figure out a way to either rebuild that workforce, reset standards, or set that precedent that, hey, you will be held accountable if you make this decision, but we are prepared for you to make that decision. We ran out of a lot of resources very quickly because we just kept giving into the demands without really thinking of the consequence of overspending and allocating funds that we didn't even have and resources that we didn't even have attainable to us, because far before the pandemic, we always planned on the world being sunshine and rainbows. We never really thought there'd be a big issue until suddenly there was. And then it was just reactive reasoning, which it doesn't work.
Another thing she touched on is how we don't plan for that longer term. We only look at, the now and the then, but we don't look at what we can do now to make a difference or, help.
I'm reminded to come full circle of some of Kasparov's last remarks about chess and strategy, thinking several steps ahead. And that's what really seems to be missing. We seem to be trapped in this reactive mode where we're just responding to things. We're not figuring out a way to make have a very different result at the end through things we do now. And that's why it's up to all of you to wrap up as the educated. It's up to all of us really to as we just learned to take a part in this. What can we all contribute that might be several steps down the line to a much brighter, more positive, and more hopeful future. And I dread this moment of having to say we're out of time because I would love to talk another hour. But I really want to give you one more video, not to watch now because we're out of time. But if you want to see a very powerful 7 minutes, this video, I'm going to post the link, the name of it. It's called Ukraine's Fight to Keep Educating Its Children. It's only 7 minutes. The woman speaking is heavily involved in education in Ukraine, and she shares just a little bit about the experience of what she's been through and what the children of the country have been through. And it's very gripping. In many ways, it's the most powerful and heart-wrenching of the three. But you'll notice some resonance with the other two. On behalf of UAGC Honors, Mark and I are absolutely thrilled that you came tonight to be a part of this event. I am touched by, this is some of the most amazing conversation I've heard in ages anywhere. And I'm so thankful to all of you for taking part in it. And I hope you'll consider coming again. We're going to be going on every month. I hope you consider just saying, hey, Clifford and Mark, here's a topic I'd love to see us talk about. We'll make it happen. We want this to be for all of you. So on behalf of us both, thank you all so much. We'll be happy to answer any questions and stick around, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
It was great seeing you guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Hey,
everyone.
everybody. Edwin and anybody else who wants to, first you should track your own hours as well. And we do have a document and a frequently asked questions document that's on the Honors Learning community, but I also posted the link a little bit up for the Qualtrics survey. And that's so we have an internal tracking just so we can have 2 points of reference. But if you don't fill out the Qualtrics survey and you don't track it yourself and you forget about it, then there's no way, for us to know. So it's good to track it.
So, Mark, if there aren't any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. You're welcome to stick around and ask questions, but I'm going to end that.